Hey BookTube, Science Fiction Reads here with my New Worlds November Week 1 wrap-up and Week 2 TBR, tentative TBR. So for Week 1, which was stories that take place on Earth, I read 3 things. The first of which was Robert Silverberg's Homefaring, which was in the 84 World's Best SF, edited by Donald Wollheim. And I already mentioned in my previous video, I went ahead and read the whole collection and was not very impressed with much of what was in here. The first story is the Greg Bear novella Blood Music, which I didn't read because I've read the novel and absolutely loved it. So Blood Music would be good, but other than that, I did not really enjoy anything from here aside from Homefaring, which takes place on Earth, but in the drastic future, potentially up to 1 billion years in the future. So and it starts kind of in the middle of the story, which is interesting. And I don't want to give too much away, but it starts with this guy's consciousness, McCulloch. I forget his first name already. His last name is McCulloch. His consciousness kind of comes to in the mind, or in the body, I guess, of a lobster, similar to a lobster creature, on the ocean floor. And he's kind of wondering to himself, what's going on? Where am I? And then he realizes there's another consciousness in the lobster, so he's sharing the body, basically. And as the story progresses, he starts to remember how he got there. He's part of a, I guess, modern day, slightly in the future, science research project to send a consciousness into the near future. I don't remember if they actually say why they're trying to do this other than just to do it. They're hoping to get somewhere around 100 years in the future, and they drastically misjudge. And he wakes up sometime in the far future. It takes him a while to piece together how far in the future he probably is, and he comes to realize it's very, very far in the future. And he discovers this kind of lobster-like society, or culture, I guess. And when they become aware of his consciousness, they take it as a omen, which is a good thing, they think, and they set off on a pilgrimage because they believe that this could be a sign of the world ending, but also a new world being born, sort of thing. And they have a couple legends about how the world has been reborn and destroyed a couple times, which I think there's 3 eras, and the first one kind of alludes to possibly the creation of the Earth in general. The second time would be when the Earth was destroyed sometime in the future. So the second rebirth would be kind of their culture, and they think there's going to be a third destruction and rebirth. And they believe that going on this pilgrimage will ensure that their spirits awaken in the next world. And McCulloch is just trying to piece together what the hell's going on. He doesn't think he's part of an omen. And I guess I won't spoil the ending, but it was good. I think this was about 50 pages, but I wanted more. I would have loved a novel or more stories connected to this. Yeah, it was good. Definitely the highlight of the book. And that's saying something, because I mean, there was an Asimov story in here which was not very good. Frederick Pohl. Yeah, I'd say that was probably my favorite of the 3 things I read this week. So next up, I read a Murray Leinster story. I actually read a few, but only one actually qualifies for Week 1. And let me just confirm what it was called. Nobody Saw the Ship is what it's called, which was written in... Yeah, Nobody Saw the Ship, which was written in 1950. It takes place modern day, so 50s. I guess modern day. It doesn't really say. Certainly it's not any sort of far future. It's a very brief story. This little alien kind of flying around the galaxy, trying to find a planet that has some sort of substance, some kind of food substance or something they can use for medicine back on his planet that he desperately needs. And he comes to Earth and he starts just running tests on the flora and fauna. But to avoid suspicion, he kind of scans a nearby animal, which happens to be a mountain lion. And he just creates like a robotic mountain lion that he pilots inside, which is, I feel like it was trying to be humorous, probably. It certainly comes across as humorous. I don't think it was unintentional. It is a funny story. So he's running around this forest, killing animals and dissecting them, and he finds in the brains this certain type of, I don't know if it was an enzyme or something, but it's exactly what he needs. So he's like, okay, it's in the mountain lions, that's good. Okay, it's in the birds, that's good. Then he finds nearby a field full of sheep with a sheep farmer, and he goes, well, there's a lot of sheep. If they have it, that would be excellent because there's lots of those. And there's also lots of those humans, and I'll get to them later, but let me check the sheep first. So the sheep farmer starts to notice this this mountain lion that does not act normal, and it starts creeping him out. He thinks he's being visited by some sort of spirit or demon, and starts performing like pagan rituals. He's absolutely terrified, and that's where the comedy aspect comes in. At one point, he shoots it in the neck, and so suddenly this, what he thinks is a mountain lion, has fire and smoke and sparks flying out of its neck. His dog jumps up and is hanging from the neck, just shaking from this neck, and the mountain lion just starts calmly stalking toward the guy. And he just drops his gun and runs away because there's this this cat walking toward him that's on fire with a dog hanging from it, and seemingly it's not bothering the cat at all. Again, I won't say how it ends. It ends fine for the farmer, but it was comical and I did enjoy it. And I'm going to read more Murray Leinster, but I'll get to that. There's a story in here I'm going to read for week 2. And I have read a couple of his stories now. I find, which is typical with most authors, his earlier stuff is not as good as his later stuff. The stuff from the 40s is all right. I mean, it's dated, of course it would be. And the stuff from the 50s is too, but the stuff from the 50s I found nowhere near as dated. So after that, I read Mike Resnick's 7 Views of Olduvai Gorge, which is part of his Birthright series, which he has many, many books in. I've talked about this book before. It's one of my favorites. It's a weird one in that it portrays humanity conquering the galaxy basically by force and does not paint a very good picture of humanity in general. And I kind of forgot that this kind of picks up where that left off. In this, humanity is extinct, which is not really a spoiler. That's how this ends. Although there is an illusion at the end of this that in the far future, possibly something on Earth is evolving again and humanity might make a comeback. In this, I believe it is 14,000 years after humanity's conquering of the galaxy has come to an end. They are extinct, and there's this group of 7 or so different species aliens have come to Earth as part of an archaeological team. They want to learn about humanity's past, try and learn about their behavior and why they were like they were. And it's basically 7 super short stories. This is less than 50 pages. I think it's, yeah, it's like 42 pages. And one of these aliens is, I think, kind of just an amorphous, I don't know if he's like a cloud or a gelatin thing. There's not much description of any of these aliens, but he kind of just takes each of the 7 items that they dig up and consumes it, and thereby experiences everything that that item has ever experienced. And then he just finds part of that item's history that's relevant to humanity, and we get a short story about that item and how it pertained to humanity's nature. And it's interesting because Resnick does not think kindly of the human race. I don't have much to say about each particular short story because they're super short. They're just a brief glimpse of usually just a small encounter in someone's life, or the ending of a life, that all kind of go together to form an opinion for these aliens that humanity was kind of bad from the start, or at least aggressive from the start. So it just paints kind of it's interesting because you don't see a lot of science fiction that has humanity as the bad guys, especially when we're already gone and it's just a bunch of aliens standing around contemplating how could they be so cruel. I don't really believe that there would be a galactic society of hundreds of different races where there's none that had aggression or aspirations for power in that kind of society. It seems unbelievable that humanity would be like the only one, and certainly unbelievable that they would conquer the whole galaxy by force, because we're pretty puny race. But it was good. I think I rated it 3 out of 5 stars the first time I read it years ago, and this time around I rated it 4 out of 5. Maybe because I've read more Resnick, because I don't think I had read this at the time. So now, having read a few in the same series, it's interesting to piece them together. So for the subcategories for New Worlds November, I think I checked off humorous and archaeological, certainly. Probably a couple more. I forgot to keep a list. I'll have to update that list going forward. But that was week 1. Week 2, I have 3 different things here that I'm going to read, but I'll probably read more than that. First of all, there's a story here in the Murray Leinster collection which is called Exploration Team, and it was written in the mid to late 50s, and the cover art actually depicts it. So week 2, New Worlds November, is read something that takes place on an alien world. So that's the case for all these stories I'm about to mention. So Exploration Team appeals to me because it's on an alien world. It's all I know about it is it's some guy who should not be on that planet, but he's kind of there covertly, and he has his only companions are some intelligent bears and a hawk, and I want to know what they're doing there. So I'm going to read that. It's a Hugo winning story too, so I'm not sure how many Hugos or Nebulas Murray Leinster won. I know his story, First Contact, won it, but many years later, like a retroactive Hugo, but I believe Exploration Team won the Hugo in like 56 or whenever he wrote it. So I'm going to read that first. Not first, because I'm already reading Bios by Robert Charles Wilson. I'm about 50 pages into this. New Worlds November is mostly about reading a bunch of short fiction. And yes, this is a novel, but it's 200 pages, probably a little less than that. So far it's good. It's about a world similar to Earth, except any exposure to its atmosphere or its biome instantly kills anything from Earth. So there's people down there exploring in suits and stuff, but the main character, I believe, has been genetically modified right from birth, with the intention of living on this planet, or at least exploring it much more intimately than a regular human could. And I'm barely into it, like I said, but it's pretty interesting so far, especially the culture and the politics that humanity has found itself in this far future. So I'm looking forward to this. I haven't read anything by him unless I've read some short story in an anthology or something, but it's pretty good. Right now I am at the part that actually the cover art depicts, which is the main character and someone else are piloting these little dragonfly robots around, exploring the flora and fauna. So it's good. Probably exploration of alien worlds is some of my favorite science fiction. So this is a exciting week. Next up, because Brandy at the Booklectic, hi Brandy, is doing Howl for the Holidays, I'm fitting in at least one short story from this collection, but there's probably more than one that will qualify. I'm going to read, let me just confirm the name, Uncommon Sense, which I believe is about a small crew of people who land a spaceship on an alien world, and then there's some sort of dispute, and one of them has to outsmart the others. And knowing how Clement, it's going to involve some interesting flora and fauna, and some hard sci-fi or science fiction in which the main character will outwit the others, probably, using awesome science. So I haven't read anything from this. There's 9 stories? Yeah, 9 stories, all from the 40s to the 60s. I'm sure I'll find something else in this collection that takes place on an alien world. I'll read that as well. And after that, I was thinking I might find something. It's been a while. Well, actually, it has not been a while since I read any Reynolds, but I'm feeling like some Reynolds short fiction, and it has been a while since I've read any of that. And I thought I had completely read this, but Goodreads says I have not. So, I mean, looking at the list of stories, I'm sure I've read almost everything in here, but it's Alistair Reynolds. I'm sure I'll find a few non-terrestrial stories here if I get that far, and I probably will, because so far I've got 2 short stories and a short novel, so I guess I'll be back a week from now with a wrap-up from week 2 and a TBR for week 3, so I will see you then.